The morning sun cast long shadows across the Morrison family farm as 12-year-old Jinho stepped out of the barn, wiping sweat from his forehead. Earth in 2187 looked much like it had centuries ago in the rural areas. Rolling hills, dense forests, and farms that stretched to the horizon. Only the occasional glint of spacecraft leaving the new Portland spaceport reminded anyone that humanity now traveled the stars. Jinho, don't wander too far. His mother Myri called from the small laboratory attached to their farmhouse. She worked as a town xenobiologist, studying alien plants and creatures that travelers brought back from distant worlds. Her voice carried the usual mix of concern and affection that made Jinho smile. He waved to show he heard her and started walking toward the forest edge. Last night had been special. Dozens of bright lights had streaked across the sky, leaving glowing trails that lasted for minutes. Everyone called it a meteor shower, but Jinho wondered if some of those lights might have been something more. Maybe ships, maybe escape pods. The thought made his heart beat faster. His father, Daesung, always warned him about getting too curious about alien things. Not everything that falls from the sky is friendly, he would say. But Jinho couldn't help himself. The unknown called to him like a puzzle waiting to be solved. The forest was eerily quiet as he pushed through the underbrush. No birds sang. No small animals rustled in the leaves. Even the wind seemed to have stopped blowing. Jinho felt the hairs on his neck stand up. Something was wrong here. He almost turned back. Then he saw the crater. It wasn't large, maybe 6 feet across, and smoke still rose from the blackened earth around it. But what lay in the center made Jinho gasp and forget all about being careful. A creature, no bigger than a house cat, lay motionless in the dirt. Its scales shimmered with colors that seemed impossible, blues that shifted to violet, then to silver, then back again. 2 small wings, delicate as paper, were folded against its body. One wing was clearly broken, bent at an angle that made Jinho wince. Blood the color of bright copper pooled beneath the creature, soaking into the scorched ground. Jinho had seen enough nature programs on the Galactic Network to recognize what this was. A Draxon, a baby dragon from a star system so far away that Earth's fastest ships took months to reach it. They were supposed to be rare, incredibly rare. Some people thought they were myths. But here one was, bleeding and dying in a crater near his home. The dragon's eyes opened slowly. They were gold, bright as coins, with vertical black pupils that focused on Jinho's face. And then something incredible happened. Jinho felt something in his mind, like a whisper that wasn't sound. It was emotion, pure and clear. Pain, fear, confusion. And beneath all of that, a desperate plea that needed no words. Help me. Please help me. Jinho's father's warnings echoed in his head. Don't touch alien creatures. Don't get involved. Call the authorities. Let professionals handle it. But those eyes, those desperate, frightened eyes. Jinho was already moving. He pulled off his jacket without thinking and carefully, so carefully, wrapped it around the small dragon. She, somehow he knew it was a she, was warm to the touch, warmer than any earth animal. Her scales felt smooth as glass under his fingers. It's okay, Jinho whispered, even though he had no idea if the creature could understand him. I've got you. You're going to be okay. The dragon's trembling slowed. That strange feeling in his mind grew warmer, softer. Gratitude, relief, trust. Jinho lifted her as gently as he could and started back toward the farm. His mind raced. He couldn't take her to the house. His parents would panic. Or worse, they'd call the Galactic Council. The council would take her away to some research facility. She'd become a specimen, not a living being who needed help. The barn, the old barn, had empty stalls and plenty of hay. He could hide her there, at least for a little while. He snuck past the house, grateful that his parents were both busy inside. The barn smelled like dust and old wood, familiar and comforting. Jinho found a further stall and made a soft nest from clean hay and old blankets. His mother had taught him how to treat injured animals. He'd helped her dozens of times with everything from hurt birds to sick alien livestock that farmers brought for examination. His hands remembered what to do. He cleaned the wounds with water from the barn tap. He fashioned a splint for the broken wing, using thin pieces of wood. and strips of cloth. He brought water mixed with nutrient paste, the kind his mother used for exotic creatures. The dragon. He decided to call her Ember because of the way her scales seemed to glow. Drank a little and then closed her eyes. Her breathing steadied. The bleeding stopped. "I'll be back," Jinho promised, stroking her small head gently. "I'll bring food. You're safe now." That strange warmth in his mind pulsed once, like a heartbeat of pure gratitude. Jinho returned to the house for dinner, his mind spinning with secrets. His parents talked about the meteor shower, which apparently hadn't been meteors at all. Unidentified spacecraft had scattered across the region. The Galactic Council was investigating. Jinho barely tasted his food. All he could think about was Ember, alone in the barn, recovering from whatever terrible thing had brought her crashing to Earth. That night he couldn't sleep. Every few hours he snuck out to check on her. She was breathing. She was alive. That was enough. When dawn finally came, Jinho dressed quickly and ran outside. He needed to check on Ember, bring her more food, make sure the wounds weren't infected. He made it exactly 3 steps out the door before he froze. "Jinho." His father's voice boomed across the farm, filled with shock and fear. Jinho turned and felt his breath leave his body. Their backyard, their entire 5-acre backyard, was filled with dragons. Not baby dragons. Adult Draxon. Each one as large as a cargo truck, their scales gleaming in the morning sun like a field of living jewels. Jinho counted quickly. 70, maybe 80, all of them sitting perfectly still. All of them watching the barn where Ember slept. In the distance, sirens began to wail. Overhead, Galactic Council ships appeared out of nowhere, their sensors undoubtedly screaming warnings. His mother stumbled outside, her tablet falling from her hands. His father just stood frozen, mouth open in disbelief. The largest dragon, twice the size of all the others, with scales that seemed to contain entire galaxies of swirling color, turned her massive head toward Jinho. Those same golden eyes, ancient and knowing and powerful beyond measure, locked onto his face. And then that whisper returned his mind, but this time it wasn't a whisper. It was a voice like thunder and music and the warmth of 1,000 suns. "You saved our princess. We have come to honor the debt." Behind him, the barn door creaked open. Ember, still wobbly but alive, chirped and launched herself into the air with clumsy wing beats. She landed on Jinho's shoulder, nuzzling against his neck. Every single dragon lowered their massive heads in perfect unison. The gesture shook the ground beneath Jinho's feet. He looked at his parents, at the dragons, at the council ships descending from the sky, at Ember perched on his shoulder, safe and alive. Jinho realized his life would never, ever be the same again. Within an hour, the Morrison farm became the center of galactic attention. Military vehicles surrounded the property, their weapons pointed outward in defensive positions. Soldiers in dark uniforms set up barriers and checkpoints on every road leading to the farm. Overhead, more ships arrived every minute, circling like worried birds. Council representatives landed in sleek silver shuttles that touched down on the front lawn, crushing Myri's vegetable garden. The lead shuttle opened, and out stepped Ambassador Hyojin, a woman with sharp eyes and gray-streaked hair pulled back severely. She had spent 40 years negotiating peace treaties and trade agreements across dozens of star systems. She looked like someone who never smiled, and right now, she looked terrified. "Mr. Morrison," Hyojin addressed Daesung, though her eyes kept drifting to the dragons filling the backyard. Each time she looked at them, she seemed to shrink a little. "Do you understand what you're harboring?" Daesung put his hand firmly on Jinho's shoulder. The boy could feel his father trembling slightly, but his voice came out steady and strong. "My son saved an injured animal. That's all. We don't turn away creatures in need, no matter where they come from." The massive dragon, the matriarch, shifted her weight, and the ground trembled like a small earthquake. Several soldiers raised their weapons nervously. Suddenly, Jinho heard words in his mind, clear as if someone spoke directly into his ear. But the voice wasn't coming from outside. It was inside, translated through his bond with Ember. "The boy is Flamekin now. He saved my daughter. We honor this debt. No harm will come to him or his family while we breathe. Jinho's mouth fell open. He could understand her. He looked down at Ember, who chirped softly on his shoulder. Through her, he could hear the matriarch's thoughts. She says I'm flame kin. Jinho whispered to his parents, because I saved Ember. That's her daughter. Hyojin's face went pale. Flamekin? That's impossible. The Draxan haven't named anyone Flamekin in over 3,000 years. It means you're family to them. Royal family. Myri stepped forward, her scientist curiosity overcoming her fear. She pulled out her tablet and started scanning the dragons, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. Ambassador! The Draxan haven't made contact with any other species since before Earth even had space travel. Why now? Why here? The matriarch's massive head turned toward Myri. When she spoke again, Jinho heard the words and repeated them aloud so everyone could understand. She says their world burned. Their home is gone. Something destroyed it, and their children were scattered across the stars in escape pods. They've been searching for them for years, but hunters follow them everywhere they go. Hunters. Hyojin's hand moved to her communicator. What hunters? Our ancient enemy. The Krell. They see us as beasts to be tamed, weapons to be used. They destroyed our world when we refused to serve them. Now they hunt our young across the galaxy. The word Krell made every council representative stiffen. Hyojin's face went from pale to gray. The Krell Dominion, she breathed. They've been expanding their empire for decades. But we had no idea they were capable of destroying an entire planet. Jinho felt Ember tremble on his shoulder. Through their bond, he felt her memories, flashes of fire and screaming and running, being loaded into a small pod, the terror of falling through space alone. He gently stroked her scales, trying to comfort her. They're just trying to survive, Jinho said quietly. They're refugees. And Ember was so scared and hurt when I found her. She thought she was going to die alone. The matriarch made a sound like a deep rumble of thunder. When she spoke again, her mental voice was softer, almost gentle. This is why we revealed ourselves. Most species in this galaxy see only profit or power. They calculate worth before offering help. But this child saw a wounded being and asked for nothing in return. He gave aid freely with pure heart. Such beings are rare among the stars. Hyojin pulled Myri and Daesun aside, speaking in urgent whispers. Jinho could hear parts of their conversation, words like alliance and political implications and unprecedented opportunity. Finally, Hyojin turned back to face them. The Council wants Jinho to serve as official liaison between humanity and the Draxan, she said. If they're willing to ally with us because of his actions, it could change Earth's position in galactic politics forever. We're currently a junior member species, but with the Draxan as allies. She trailed off, looking at the massive dragons with new eyes that saw power and possibility. He's 12 years old, Daesun said flatly. You want to put that kind of responsibility on a child. I'll do it, Jinho interrupted. Both his parents looked at him in shock. I will. They need help. Ember needs help. If I can do something, I should. The matriarch rumbled approval, and Jinho felt warmth spread through his chest. Hyojin nodded slowly. Then we'll... Every alarm on the farm started blaring at once. Soldiers shouted into their communicators. Council representatives ran for their shuttles. Overhead, the sky began to change. Red lights flashed across the clouds. Ships, massive warships painted black as space, began appearing out of hyperspace. One by one they materialized, each one bristling with weapons. Jinho counted 10, then 20, then stopped counting. A harsh, clicking voice crackled across every speaker, every communicator, every device capable of receiving transmissions. Humans of Earth, this is the Krell Dominion. You are harboring stolen property. The Draxan beasts belong to us. Surrender them immediately, or we will burn your world from orbit. You have 1 hour to comply. The transmission ended. Silence fell across the farm, broken only by the hum of Krell warships charging their weapons. Jinho felt the dragon's emotions through Ember, not fear, rage, burning, ancient rage that made his hands shake and his heart pound. These were the creatures that had destroyed their world, that had hunted their children across the stars. The matriarch rose to her full height, wings spreading wide enough to cast shadows over half the farm. Her voice filled Jinho's mind with the force of a storm. They followed us here. They will kill you all to reach us. You should send us away. Save yourselves. Daesung looked at Hyojin. Hyojin looked at the other council representatives. Everyone seemed frozen, waiting for someone else to make the terrible decision. Then Jinho stepped forward. His voice was small, but in the silence, everyone heard it clearly. "No," he said. "We don't abandon family. That's not what humans do." The matriarch's golden eyes locked onto his, and Jinho felt something pass between them. Understanding, respect, and something that might have been hope. Above them, the Krell warships began their descent. Weapons charged, targeting systems locked on. The hour had begun. The lead Krell warship was a monstrosity of sharp angles and dark metal. It looked like someone had built a ship out of knives and hatred. Weapons bristled from every surface, and its engines glowed an angry red that reminded Jinho of infected wounds. A transmission crackled across all frequencies. The voice was harsh and clicking, like insects crawling over metal. It made Jinho's skin crawl just hearing it. "Humans, surrender the Draxon beasts or your world burns. They are property of the Krell Dominion. Return them immediately." Hyojin's hands shook as she opened a communication channel. Her voice tried to sound strong, but Jinho could hear the fear underneath. "This is Galactic Council territory. Earth is a protected world. You have no authority to make demands here." The Krell voice laughed. The sound was terrible, like breaking bones. "The Council is weak, old, frightened. We take what we want. You have 1 hour to send the beasts to our ships. After that, we begin orbital bombardment. Your cities will burn. Your oceans will boil. Choose wisely, little humans." The transmission cut off, leaving only static and the sound of Hyojin's ragged breathing. Jinho felt the dragons around him. Through Ember, he could sense their emotions like they were his own. Rage burned through them, hot as stars. But underneath the rage was something else. Grief. Loss. These creatures had already lost their world. Now they faced the monsters who had destroyed it. "How many people live in New Portland?" Daesung asked quietly, his face gray as ash. 50,000 in the city," Hyojin whispered. "Another 100,000 in the surrounding farms and towns." "And if they attack?" Hyojin couldn't answer. She didn't need to. Everyone knew what orbital bombardment meant. Death from the sky. Fire that nothing could stop. A younger council representative, a man named Tamin, spoke up. His voice cracked with fear. "We should give them what they want. We're a junior species. We can't fight the Krell Dominion. They have hundreds of warships. We have, what? A dozen defense platforms? We'll be wiped out." Several other representatives nodded. Soldiers looked at each other nervously. Even some of the dragons shifted uneasily, sensing the humans' fear. "No." Daesung's voice cut through the panic like a blade. "Absolutely not." "Mr. Morrison, be reasonable," Tamin pleaded. "We're talking about the lives of everyone on Earth. We can't risk." "We can't hand living beings over to slavers," Daesung interrupted. "What kind of species would that make us? What kind of people?" Myri stood beside her husband, tablet forgotten in her hand. "He's right. If we give in now, what's next? Do we surrender every time someone threatens us? Do we trade lives for safety until we have nothing left?" Hyojin closed her eyes. Her whole body seemed to sag with the weight of the decision. "I need to contact the council leadership. This is beyond my authority." "There's no time," Jinho said. Everyone turned to look at him. He felt small under all those eyes, but Ember chirped encouragement on his shoulder. "They gave us 1 hour. By the time you contact the council and they debate and argue, it'll be too late." The matriarch moved forward. Her massive form cast shadows across the entire group. When she spoke through Jinho, her mental voice was heavy with sorrow. "We will leave. We will fly into space and surrender ourselves. Perhaps the Krell will be satisfied and spare your world. It is the only way. No. Jinho shouts surprised even himself. That's not happening. You came here because I saved Ember. Because humans help people who need it. We don't stop helping just because it gets dangerous. Jinho, this isn't about helping one injured animal anymore. Hyojin said gently. This is about the survival of our entire planet. I know. Jinho looked up at the matriarch, then at his parents, then at all the scared faces around him. But if we give up now, if we hand them over to save ourselves, then we're telling the whole galaxy that humans only do the right thing when it's safe, that we're cowards who abandon friends when things get hard. Daesung put both hands on his son's shoulders. Pride shone in his eyes, mixed with terror. The boy's right. I'd rather die fighting than live knowing we betrayed innocent beings. A low rumble began among the soldiers. One of them, a young woman named Sora, stepped forward. My grandmother always said that humans survive because we protect our own. Well, the kid made these dragons family. That means we fight. Other soldiers nodded. The rumble grew into voices of agreement. Hyojin stared at them all like they'd lost their minds. Maybe they had. But slowly, something changed in her face. Fear gave way to determination. The council will probably strip me of my position for this, she said. But you're right. All of you, we stand our ground. She opened a channel to the Krell warship. Her voice was steady now, strong. This is Ambassador Hyojin of Earth. Your demands are denied. The Draxen are under our protection. Leave our system immediately or face the consequences. The clicking laughter came again. Foolish mammals. You choose death. Very well. We will harvest the beasts from your burning ruins. The channel went dead. For a moment, nobody moved. Then chaos erupted. Soldiers ran to defensive positions. Council ships powered up weapons. Civilians in the distance began evacuating toward underground shelters. Jinho stood in the center of it all, Ember on his shoulder, feeling strangely calm. Through his bond with her, he felt the other dragons preparing for battle. They had fought the Krell before. They knew what was coming. The matriarch lowered her head until her massive eye was level with Jinho's face. You have given us a gift, young Flamekin. You have shown us that not all species in this galaxy have forgotten honor. For that, we will fight beside you until the end. We're not dying today, Jinho said firmly. None of us. We're going to win. He had no idea how. The Krell had superior numbers, superior weapons, superior everything. But looking around at the dragons, at the soldiers readying their weapons, at his parents standing tall despite their fear, Jinho felt something impossible growing in his chest. Hope. Overhead, the Krell ships began to move. Weapons charged with building wines. Targeting lasers painted red dots across the farm, across the town beyond, across everything Jinho had ever known. A countdown appeared on every screen. 59 minutes. 58. 57. The battle for Earth was about to begin. Suddenly, a brilliant light flashed across the sky, not from the Krell ships, but from beyond them. More ships were arriving. Council reinforcements from across the sector, answering Hyojin's distress call. But there weren't enough. Jinho could see that immediately. Maybe 20 Council ships against 50 Krell warships. Then the Krell launched their first attack. Not at the ships. At the farm. At the dragons. Dropships screamed down through the atmosphere, releasing swarms of armored Krell soldiers. They looked like enormous insects, with 4 arms, each holding weapons, and armored shells that gleamed like oil. The dragons roared as one, and launched into the sky to meet them. Fire filled the air. Energy bolts streaked in every direction. The sound was deafening, like the world was tearing itself apart. The battle raged for 20 brutal minutes. Fire and energy bolts lit the sky like a deadly light show. Dragons fought with claws and flame against Krell soldiers in powered armor. Human soldiers fired their weapons until the barrels glowed red hot. Council ships traded shots with Krell warships overhead, explosions blooming like terrible flowers in the atmosphere. Then everything changed. A Krell ship fired something different. Not an explosive, not an energy weapon. A strange green mist that spread to the air like fog, drifting down toward the fighting dragons. The The mist touched the nearest dragon, a young male with copper-colored scales. He convulsed in midair, his whole body seizing up like he'd been hit with lightning. Then he fell, not a controlled landing, but a drop like a stone, crashing into ground so hard the impact cracked the earth. No! Jinho screamed. One by one, the dragons began falling from the sky. Their wings stopped working. Their fire died in their throats. They hit the ground with sickening thuds, their bodies twitching and jerking. It's a biological weapon. Someone shouted over the communications channel. It's targeting their nervous systems. Ember shrieked on Jinho's shoulder. He felt the weapon reaching for her through their bond, trying to shut down her body like turning off a machine. But something was wrong with it. The weapon couldn't quite reach her. It was like trying to grab something through thick glass. She could feel it, but it couldn't fully affect her, because she was connected to Jinho. And Jinho was human. The matriarch crashed to the ground 20 feet away, her massive body shaking. Her breath came in gasps. Through Ember, Jinho felt the terror of all the dragons. Paralyzed, helpless, waiting for the Krell to come and chain them, get samples of the weapon. Myri was already running toward her lab, tablet in hand. Her scientist mind had kicked into overdrive. Jinho, I need your blood, now. Jinho didn't argue. While human soldiers formed desperate defensive lines around the fallen dragons, firing at the advancing Krell troops with everything they had, he raced after his mother. Ember lay in his arms, barely breathing, her scales losing their shimmer. In the lab, Myri worked frantically. Her fingers flew across keyboards, calling up genetic scanners and analysis programs. Your bond with Ember, it's genetic level. The weapon can't fully affect you because you're human, but you're connected to her. If I can isolate that resistance. Daesung burst through the door, his face covered in soot and blood. They're breaking through. The soldiers can't hold much longer. 5 more minutes. Myri snapped, not looking up from her work. We don't have 5 minutes. Outside, the sounds of battle grew louder. Closer. Explosions shook the building. Someone screamed. The sharp crack of energy weapons came from just beyond the lab walls. Jinho held Ember close, feeling her rapid heartbeat against his chest. Through their bond, he felt the other dragons dying. Not all of them, not yet, but some, the older ones, the wounded ones. Their hearts simply couldn't take the strain of the weapon. Tears ran down his face. Mom, please. Almost there. Myri's voice was tight with concentration. The weapon targets Draxan DNA specifically, shutting down their neural pathways. But your bond with Ember created a bridge. Your human genetics are interfering with the weapon's ability to lock onto her. If I can synthesize that interference, amplify it. She grabbed a syringe and jammed it into Jinho's arm without warning. He yelped. She drew blood, lots of it, then immediately began processing it through a machine that hummed and beeped. An explosion rocked the building. Part of the ceiling collapsed. Daesung grabbed a weapon from a fallen soldier and moved to the door. Myri. Done. She pulled a vial of glowing blue liquid from the machine. This is it. A counteragent based on Jinho's genetic resistance, combined with synthesized Draxan antibodies. If it works... If... Jinho croaked. When... Myri corrected, meeting his eyes. When it works, it should flush the weapon from their systems and provide immunity. But Jinho, this is going to hurt. A lot. She didn't wait for permission. She injected the counteragent directly into his arm, into the same vein she'd drawn blood from. Fire exploded through Jinho's body. Not regular fire. This was worse, like his blood had turned to molten metal. He screamed and fell to his knees, clutching Ember so hard he was afraid he might hurt her. Every nerve ending felt like it was being ripped apart and rebuilt. His vision went white, then red, then black. Through the pain, he felt Ember. She was part of him. He was part of her. The bond between them wasn't just emotional or telepathic. It was written into every cell, every molecule. And now that bond was changing, strengthening, becoming something new. Myri injected the counteragent into Ember next. For one terrible heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Ember's eyes snapped open, glowing brilliant gold like miniature suns. Power surged through her small body. She launched from Jinho's arms and flew straight up, smashing to the lab's roof, releasing a cry that shattered every window in the building. The sound wasn't just noise. It was a message, a beacon, a lifeline sent to the telepathic network that connected all Draxon. Jinho felt it happening. Through his bond with Ember, the cure spread like wildfire through the Dragon network. From Ember to the Matriarch, from the Matriarch to every other dragon. The counteragent replicated itself through their shared consciousness, a genetic cascade that needed no physical injection. Outside, dragons began to stir. The young copper-scaled male lifted his head. A female with green scales spread her wings. The Matriarch rose, her eyes blazing with renewed fury. One by one, every dragon stood up. The weapon's effects burned away like morning fog under the sun. The Matriarch threw back her massive head and roared. The sound shook the earth for miles. Windows shattered in New Portland. Krell soldiers stumbled and covered their ears. Then she looked directly at the Krell command ship and spoke, her mental voice so powerful that every being on the battlefield heard it. Enough. Jinho stumbled outside, still shaking from the pain of the counteragent. Ember landed on his shoulder, vibrating with energy. Around them, the battle had frozen. Krell soldiers stood in shock, watching the dragons they thought they'd paralyze rise with renewed strength. A transmission came from the Krell command ship. For the first time, the harsh clicking voice sounded uncertain. Retreat. All forces retreat immediately. The weapon failed. Repeat retreat. Too late. Hyojin said coldly over the open channel. She stood on top of a transport vehicle, her hair wild, her diplomat's clothes torn and bloody. You attacked Earth. You hurt our allies. You threatened our people. Did you really think we'd let you just leave? The Council reinforcement ships moved into attack formation. Human defense platforms powered up, and the dragons, all 70 of them, rose into the sky as one. The Matriarch turned her massive head toward Jinho. Through Ember, he felt her question, not in words but in pure meaning. You could have run to safety. You could have saved yourself and let us fall. Why did you stay? Jinho met those ancient eyes. His voice was small but steady. Humans don't abandon family. Ever. Light exploded from the Matriarch, not fire, but pure energy. Her physical form dissolved, revealing something beyond, a being of living starlight, vast and terrible and beautiful. She wasn't a creature anymore. She was a sun-given consciousness, a star that thought and felt and remembered. One by one, the other dragons transformed. Scales fell away like shed skin, revealing bodies made of pure light. They expanded, growing larger, their true forms no longer bound by physical limitations. The sky filled with celestial fire, turning day into something beyond day, a brilliance that made Jinho shield his eyes even as his heart filled with wonder. By the ancestors, Hyojin whispered, falling to her knees. The legends are true. The ancient text spoke of star beings who walked among us in the old days. I thought they were just stories. The Matriarch's voice resonated in every mind on the battlefield. Human Krell, every living thing for miles around heard her speak. We have searched millennia for a species that would protect us without seeking to exploit us. Beings who would see us as people, not as weapons or tools or resources to be harvested. Today we found them. Her attention turned to the Krell ships. The warships that had seemed so powerful, so terrifying, now looked like toys before the transformed dragons. The beings of starlight moved through space as easily as fish through water, surrounding the Krell fleet. You destroyed our world. You hunted our children. You sought to chain us, to force us to burn your enemies with our fire. You saw us as beasts. One of the star dragons reached out and touched a Krell warship. Not violently, just a gentle touch. The ship's hull began to glow, heating up instantly. Alarms blared inside it. We could end you. Right now. We could turn your ships to vapor, could make your empire burn, as you made our world burn. The Krell commander's voice came across the communication channel, no longer harsh and clicking. Now it was high-pitched with terror. Mercy. We beg for mercy. We surrender. Please. The matriarch was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. Humans have taught us something we have forgotten. They showed us that mercy is not weakness. That compassion is not surrender. That true strength lies in choosing kindness when vengeance would be easier. She pulled away from the Krell ship, leaving it scorched but intact. You will return to your empire. You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them that the Draxen have found allies, and those allies are called humans. And you will face justice before the Galactic Council for the crimes you have committed. But you will live, because the boy who saved my daughter taught us that life is precious, even the lives of enemies. The Krell ships didn't wait for a second chance. They fled into hyperspace so quickly they left scorch marks in the atmosphere, disappearing in flashes of red light. Silence fell across the battlefield. Slowly, carefully, the star dragons began to transform back. The light dimmed. Physical forms returned, scales and wings and solid bodies. They settled back to the ground, once again appearing as the dragons they had been before. But everyone who watched knew the truth now. The dragons weren't just powerful creatures. They were ancient beings who had chosen to limit themselves, to take physical form, to walk among lesser species as equals rather than gods. The matriarch, once again in her massive draconic body, approached Jinho. He stood his ground even though his legs shook. Ember chirped on his shoulder, nuzzling his cheek with encouragement. You changed everything today, young one, not just for us, but for your entire species. I just helped someone who was hurt, Jinho said quietly. That's all. Exactly. You saw a being in pain and asked nothing in return. You risked everything, your safety, your world, your life, for someone you had just met. This is what makes humanity special. Hyegen approached slowly, respectfully. Matriarch, the Galactic Council will want to discuss a formal alliance. What happened here today? Humanity standing with you against Krell. It changes the balance of power across the entire galaxy. The matriarch nodded her massive head. From this day forward, humanity and the Draxen are bound. Not as master and servant, not as user and tool, but as family. As equals. She looked at Jinho again. This boy will be our first flamekin. Through him, our peoples will learn to understand each other. Through him, we will build something that has never existed in this galaxy. A true alliance based on respect and love rather than fear and profit. 3 months passed. The Morrison farm had changed beyond recognition. What was once simple fields now hosted embassies and cultural centers. Buildings have been constructed to house diplomats, scholars, and scientists from a dozen worlds, all coming to study the unprecedented alliance between humanity and the Draxen. The Galactic Council had elevated Earth to senior member status, a promotion that usually took species centuries to achieve. Humanity's willingness to fight alongside the Draxen, to protect them at risk of their own destruction, had impressed even the most skeptical council members. The Krell Dominion faced sanctions and trials. Several of their leaders were imprisoned for war crimes. Their empire was shrinking as subjugated species saw what happened on Earth and found courage to resist. But the biggest change was in the children. Dozens of human children had bonded with dragon hatchlings over the past 3 months. Like Jinho and Ember, they formed deep connections that went beyond language or species. A new generation was growing up with dragons as friends, siblings, family. Today, Jinho stood before the full Galactic Council assembly. He wore simple clothes, just a nice shirt and pants, because he refused the fancy diplomatic robes they tried to give him. Ember, now the size of a large falcon, perched on his shoulder. She'd grown quickly, her scales brighter than ever, her damaged wing fully healed. His parents sat in the front row. Daysun looked uncomfortable in formal clothes, but pride shone in his eyes. Myri kept taking notes on her tablet, unable to stop being a scientist even at her son's greatest moment. The council leader, an ancient being from a species that looked like walking trees, spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. By unanimous vote, humanity is elevated to senior member status within the Galactic Council. Your species has proven that wisdom comes not from age, but from character. Applause filled the chamber. Jinho felt his face heat up with embarrassment. After the ceremony, He walked outside into the garden surrounding the council building. The matriarch waited there, her massive form somehow peaceful despite its size. "I still can't believe all of this happened because I found Ember in the woods," Jinho said. "Small actions create large ripples." The matriarch replied, "You taught us that compassion is not a weakness to be exploited, but a strength to be celebrated. You reminded us why we chose to take physical form, to walk among the younger species. Because connection, true connection, is worth any risk." Ember chirped and flew a small circle around them, showing off her healed wing. "What happens now?" Jinho asked.